It's really pronounced Gil, like Gil. It's the Spanish influence.
Oh, yeah.
Under Spain for 300 years. How many years we under the Dutch?
350 years.
We have 350 years under the
That's
Spanish.
long.
Not
True.
Yeah. Not true, yeah.
Yeah, let me see. Gil Chua Donayre.
Yes.
Donayre.
Gil, it's pronounced as Gil. Like
That's
that.
okay. Oh, really? Yeah. Hey guys, minta tolong buat.
It's already connected actually, but it's not getting there. Ini Mac, Apple, Mac. So sometimes really is.
Dul, terus dul. Konektor.
Yeah, there, ready. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Ready.
Siapa aja namanya? Bagian depan kan gitu dulu.
Cek coba. Tes di YouTube-nya.
Itu kok.
Enggak, di YouTube-nya belum bisa ngambil. Cek. Ini cek. Cek.
Langsung Jafil lah ini.
Jadi nggak ada. Iya. Apa? Kayaknya tadi nggak masuk. Cek. Cek. Oke.
You can.
I jumped already there twice.
Yeah. Orange. I saw orange.
Ini.
Irregular.
Syarif, mikrofon.
Oke.
Di
What type of shoot do you use? L or
it's between S and M and S.
really? But I have the smaller size of L, so I think
It's okay. Thank you, sir.
Halo. Hati-hati. Halo. Bisa? Tidak.
Live in YouTube.
In YouTube.
Okay,
It's
yeah.
in
You will
YouTube.
be
Okay.
more popular.
Oh no. Oh no.
Yeah, you can start. She is the moderator. Yeah.
Siapa nama Anda?
My name is Aini, sir.
Ainis.
Aini.
Aini.
Okay.
Happy to meet you.
Hey, welcome. Oh, just participant. Ini ada dong, narasumber. Narasumber banyak. Yeah, shy for sitting in the front. I overplayed.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Shalom. Good afternoon, everyone.
Here, because
Distinguished speaker, respected lecturers, fellow graduate students and committee members, and also all participants joining us both offline and online. Welcome to Kajian Kamisan, organized by Forum Komunikasi Mahasiswa Pascasarjana, Graduate School, UIN Hidayatullah, Jakarta. My name is Nur Ainiyah, and I will be the moderator for today's discussion. It is great pleasure and honor for us to welcome Gil Chua Donayre, S.Ag, from Loyola House of Studies ADMU, the Manila University, Philippines. Today, we will discuss a very important and contemporary theme, Islamic and Christian perspective on the ecological crisis. I think this topic is very important because the ecological crisis is not only about the environment, it is also about ethics, theology, human responsibility, and the way we understand our relationship between God and the creation. Gil also is the right person to guide us in this discussion. He has studied economics, mathematics, philosophy, theology, and Arabic language. He completed his PhD in theology in Germany with a dissertation on the ecological crisis through the lens of Islam and Christianity. This means that his academic work is directly connected of our topic today we will discuss. He also has experience in teaching pastoral service and interreligious dialogue, including his work as a theology instructor and as a program officer for interreligious dialogue at Akademik Peace Institute. Before we start, let me explain the flow of the session. First, we will listen to the presentation from Gil. After that, we will continue with Q&A session. For those joining online, you may write your question in the YouTube live chat. For participants in this room, please mention your name and institution before asking your question, please. Without further ado, I would like to invite Gil Chua Donayre, S.Ag, to deliver his presentation. Please welcome Gil.
Terima kasih. So thank you for the introduction. To those online, welcome as well. How many hours do I have for the presentation? Maybe an hour or around that time. Okay, so just so I know how long the presentation will be. Okay. So it's already mentioned that my thesis, my dissertation is about the ecological crisis through the lens of Islam and Christianity. It is a comparative theological study of religion's approaches to the environmental problem. Okay, so saya belajar bahasa Indonesia, so I have some words here. Okay, presentasi ini terdiri dari 4 bagian yang tidak sama panjang. Okay. 1. Ecological crisis, ini panjang. Comparative theology, apa itu pendek. And then areas of comparison also longer, and then I will move to the conclusion. So, 4 bagyan. In bahasa, krisis ekologi, teologi komparatif, aspek-aspek perbandingan, and then the fourth part is kesimpulan. Okay. Let's start with the ecological crisis. Okay. Sebelum kita bertanya apa ecological crisis, kita perlu mengerti ecology. What do we mean by ecology? Okay, so before we understand the ecological crisis, let's understand first what we mean by ecology. Okay, and as mentioned a while ago, ecology is very important. It's not just about the environment; it has other aspects, and we'll try to understand what we mean by ecology and ecological thinking. Okay, you remember this? This is a photo of the virus, the coronavirus. Do you remember when it started? Apa tahun itu? 20, it started actually December 2019, almost at the end of the year in China. There was an outbreak. And then in January 2020, it was declared a public emergency of international concern by the World Health Organization. Okay? And we all remember what happened during that year. There were so many lockdowns. You cannot go out of your homes. You have to have your vaccines in order for you to move around. There was just too many regulations. And it was in March 2020 that the World Health Organization declared we have a pandemic. And if you look at the picture here, we all know it started in China, and the virus spread all throughout the world. Okay? It spread in Europe, it spread in the US, less in Africa, but I suppose there were also many cases in Africa, but maybe less recorded. And I'd like to think that March 2020, this is my opinion, 2020 is the year it happened, right? But when you go to the eye doctor, an optometrist, and you have your eye checked, what is the perfect vision? What's the ideal vision? I don't know if you have it here, but in our country, we would say, you have a good vision, a perfect vision if your result in the exam is 20/20 vision. Kamu ada? 20/20? Tidak ada. But eye optometrists, eye doctors would say, the perfect vision is 20/20. And I would like to believe that the year 2020, when the pandemic happened, gave us perfect view of reality. And what is that? That we humans, kita, semua kita, we are all related to each other. Do you believe that? Do you believe that we are all related to one another? Yes. When I was here, the first day we were here, Professor Zul gave an image of the boat. In this world, we are in one boat, and whatever happens in that boat, in a way, affects each one of us. So just so to keep this in mind, COVID-19, which happened in 2020, became a pandemic. The word pandemic really comes from the Greek words pan, which means all, apa tayo, semua, and demos, which means district, country, or people. So when we have a pandemic, everyone is affected. Every country, every district, every people is affected. Okay? Let's just remind ourselves of what happened that year. Do you remember this image of army trucks? They are carrying bodies of those who died from the COVID. Di mana itu? Enggak. In Italy. Remember, in Italy, there were so many old people there who died, and were just army trucks who were carrying their bodies. Okay? Ito, photo ito, mana? You remember mass graves, like one grave after the other. Foto ito di Brazil. Brazil. Okay. Ini, those which were burned are bodies of the COVID patients who died. This happened in India. Yeah, in India, they had so many deaths that their morgues could not accommodate them. Some of them resorted to just burning their dead relatives outside of the morgue or outside of the hospitals. And if we are going to listen to the experts, to the scientists would tell us, where did this virus originate? And they would tell us, this is their hypothesis, that most likely the virus came from bats or pangolin. Bats or pangolins. We don't know, they couldn't conclude with 100% certainty, but their hypothesis states the virus came from either the bat or the pangolin. And so, if the virus came from the bats and pangolins, and we all believe that we are all related, we are all connected, I would like to expand this notion of ecological thinking by saying we human beings, including our environment, are intricately related to each other. Okay, it's not just you and me, human beings related, but all of us, including our environment, we are all related to each other. Situju? I read that from the taxi. There's bahasa, situju. So what is situju? Okay. And so we are all agreed everything is interconnected. The US-Iran war, for example, is now happening in the Middle East. But when it started in Manila, because the price of gasoline just went up, soared so high, the traffic problem in Manila was solved. We didn't have much traffic because people don't have the money to buy gasoline that are very expensive. Just to show that what happened in one part of the world has an effect on our side of the world. We are not part of the war, but whatever happens in the Middle East has an effect on us. Mangapa, we are interconnected with each other. Kamu tahu siapa itu Ferdinand Magellan? Ferdinand Magellan was the Spaniard. Actually, he is originally Portuguese, but he shifted his allegiance to Spain in the 16th century. He was the one who sailed from Europe down to South America, sailed the Pacific, and ended in the Philippines. And that is the reason kami, orang Filipino, we are Christians, because it is from Spain. You are in a way Muslims, not because of Magellan, but most likely because of the traders from India who were influenced in Saudi, perhaps at the start. And eventually when they did their trade along this part of the world, they also brought their religion. Okay. So we are connected. We are connected with everything that's happening in the world. Magellan, yes, he brought Christianity to our land, but he was very much connected with nature. Okay. Mengapa? Why did Magellan did this long journey? Because he was looking for spices. Spices. Apa itu spices? Empah. Rempah. Seperti rendang. Rempah. Okay. So, we are all interconnected and interrelated. Okay? So, this is the nerdy definition when we speak of ecology because it has become a science. Just for those of you who are curious of definitions, so ecology is defined as the study of the relationship between organisms and their physical and biological environments. Okay. The root word, where did it come from? From the Greek word oikos, which means house or dwelling. And logia, or the study of. So when we speak of ecology, it's the study of one home. Okay. When was its first usage? It was first used by the German zoologist Ernst Haeckel in 1886. And the focus really of the first use of the word is the environments of individual organisms. Okay, so just so we know the history of the word. And then the meaning of ecology eventually expanded with Eugene Odum, expanding the term to include higher levels of organization, which is really about ecosystems. And further use of the word includes biological, chemical, geological, hydrological, meteorological. Geological is about the weather. It says something about our interconnectedness. And the word further expanded to include all these other disciplines. So when we speak of ecology, it really speaks of our interconnectedness. There is one video in YouTube, it's quite long, 2 hours, but it presents to us in a scientific way how the entire Earth is connected with each other. Okay, so I can remember from that video, the African desert, for example, it has a role in fertilizing the Amazon. The Amazon is already in Brazil, but if you follow this documentary by the scientists, what happens in Africa has an effect in Brazil. It is like they're interconnected. It fertilizes the soil in the Amazon, which we all know is the lungs of the earth, because that's where much of the oxygen comes from. What I remember from this video as well is that lightning, you know what lightning is? Yeah, the lightning. Boom. Lintar. Pitir. It has an effect on the growth of plants, because when there's lightning, some chemicals there are separated, and when they fall down, they really affect the growth of our plants, our trees, and everything. So everything is interconnected. The title of that video, if I'm not mistaken, is Earth from Space. So they're looking at the Earth from space. It's a 2-hour documentary. So when we speak of ecology, and these are the only things we remember, that's already good, okay? When we speak of ecology, we are speaking of interconnectedness, okay? Ano ito? Kita saling terhubung. Is that the right translation? Interrelatedness, kita saling terkait, and we are intertwined, kita saling bertautan. So we are interconnected, interrelated, intertwined. So if you want to have a takeaway in this lecture, and if you have this only, it's already good. It emphasizes that all of us are interconnected and interrelated. If you are not convinced that we are interrelated, I have some images to show to you to convince you that we are interrelated. Okay? Apa ito? Kecoa itu takut pada tikus. Tikus itu pada takut kucing. Kucing itu pada takut anjing. Anjing itu pada takut ada pria itu ada takut istrinya istri itu ada takut kecoa. We are all interconnected. Okay? Now that we are convinced that all of us are interconnected, not just among human beings, but also with our environment, we now ask the question, ecological crisis. What do you mean when we say ecological crisis? Apa itu krisis ekologi? Okay, so that is the first question that we want to answer. Okay, it is a term to describe the sum of the environmental problems we face today. So kita ada banyak environmental problems. Okay, just want to identify them. We don't have the time to look at them more closely, but kamu tahu global warming. Everything is growing, getting warmer and warmer. Panas kali. Panas. Okay. Here in Indonesia, it's not as panas as Manila. Manila, panas kali. Panas. Okay. Hole in the ozone layer. We all know the problem of the hole in the ozone layer. It affects our supply of oxygen. Acid rain, when there's so much factories and all these chemicals come down to the earth, they also have negative effect on our soil and our plants and animals, everyone. Deforestasi. Okay. One sister in our group said, I know what deforestation means. And I asked her, apa itu? Gundul sama mu. But deforestasi, it's really a problem, yeah? Because if we cut trees, there are two effects really. When we cut trees, we decrease the trees that absorb the carbon gases. And when we cut them, when they cut trees and they are no longer living, all the carbon that they absorb will be released to the atmosphere. Okay, so deforestation is a problem. Trash management. If you don't see the big pie there, it's my land. In Philippines, we are the biggest polluters, plastic polluters of the ocean. And you know it's harmful, right? Because the marine creatures are affected by it, and it's just so much trash in the environment. And I was asking myself when I look at this graph, wow, we are number one. And I asked myself, where is Indonesia? Indonesia is only, I think, 56,333. And I asked myself, mangapa? Because we are all archipelagos, right? Philippines and Indonesia are archipelago, and we are 120 million, and you are 280 million. Why are we polluting more? And it's a puzzle to me, really. I said, wow, this is... And I was worried as well that, oh my God, we are the number one polluters in the world. And when I came here in Indonesia, and I also jogged around the lake, I saw people burning their trash still, burning their trash. And I said, could this be the reason why there's little, you're not the number one, we are the number one. Okay? But that has a negative effect as well. We all know that when we burn our trash, especially the plastics, for example, it releases so much carbon dioxide in the air, which is harmful to us. We will see that later on. But just to show, we may be the number one pollutants, but it has an effect on the marine creatures. But also with burning our trash, it cleans our environment momentarily, but it has a long-term effect on the environment. Okay. Greenhouse effect, and this is what I'd like us to focus on, because I think this is where we can learn and maybe do something about our environment. So, saya ada video, and let's watch this video. I hope this makes a sound. Tidak ada. We don't have a sound for this. We don't have any for the sound here, or this one. Can we do this or no? The sound usually goes to the HDMI. Tidak ada.
No.
Or this one, can I try?
Yeah,
But I think no. But it's the HDMI.
Sound is included in this.
Yeah, it's the HDMI, but it has. But if there's none, I'm not so sure. If there's none, we can just skip. Maybe we can just, there is the subtitles. You can just follow maybe. So it would have been better if there's a sound, but the subtitles will do. Okay. Yeah, it's not. Wait, maybe you can do something about this. Where is the speaker here? Mm. Let's see.
Human activities, from pollution to overpopulation, are driving up the Earth's temperature and fundamentally changing the world around us. The main cause is a phenomenon known as the greenhouse effect. Gases in the atmosphere, such as water vapor, carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, and chlorofluorocarbons, let the sun's light in, but it keeps some of the heat from escaping, like the glass walls of the greenhouse. The more greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, the more heat gets trapped, strengthening the greenhouse effect and increasing the Earth's temperature. Human activities, like the burning of fossil fuels, have increased the amount of CO2 in the atmosphere by more than a third since the Industrial Revolution. The rapid increase in greenhouse gases in the atmosphere has warmed the planet at an alarming rate. While Earth's climate has fluctuated in the past, atmospheric carbon dioxide hasn't reached today's levels in hundreds of thousands of years. Climate change has consequences for our oceans, our weather, our food sources, and our health. Ice sheets, such as Greenland and Antarctica, are melting. The extra water that was once held in glaciers causes sea levels to rise and spills out of the oceans, flooding coastal regions. Warmer temperatures also make weather more extreme. This means not only more intense major storms, floods, and heavy snowfall, but also longer and more frequent droughts. These changes in weather pose challenges. Growing crops becomes more difficult. The areas where plants and animals can live shift, and water supplies are diminished. In addition to creating new agricultural challenges, climate change can directly affect people's physical health. In urban areas, the warmer atmosphere creates an environment that traps and increases the amount of smog. This is because smog contains ozone particles, which increase rapidly at higher temperatures. Exposure to higher levels of smog can cause health problems such as asthma, heart disease, and lung cancer. While the rapid rate of climate change is caused by humans, humans are also the ones who can combat it. If we work to replace fossil fuels with renewable energy sources like solar and wind, which don't produce greenhouse gas emissions, we might still be able to prevent some of the worst effects of climate change.
So that clip from the National Geographic presents to us the bigger picture, the macro picture of the Earth and how the gases that human activities have produced has contributed to the warming of our planet. Okay, so the other thing that we want to learn also is the another term aside from the greenhouse effect is what people would call our carbon footprint. Carbon footprint is really the amount of greenhouse gas that each of us produce as a human being. So from the macro, we now look at the micro. How do we contribute to the emission of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere? So let's watch this other video.
You know you should probably reduce it. What exactly is your carbon footprint? The carbon footprint refers to the total amount of greenhouse gases released into the Earth's atmosphere as a result of the activities of an individual or an organization. Remember, greenhouse gases trap heat inside the atmosphere, and that's overheating the planet. So if you want to work out your own carbon footprint, you need to know the amount of greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide you're responsible for creating. It's a difficult thing to measure precisely, and there are different definitions about how best to calculate it. But roughly speaking, there's the direct impact of using energy when we travel or to power our homes, and there's the indirect impact of the energy that's used to create all the things we use or consume. In the developed world in particular, transport is a big part of your carbon footprint. Cutting down on the use of petrol or diesel cars, taking fewer flights is one of the most effective ways of reducing it. The place you live also contributes to your personal footprint. It's important to make sure your home is heated or cooled efficiently and is well insulated. Or you can use sustainable energy like solar or wind power, or you can cut your emissions. The stuff you use at home also adds to the problem. All that plastic, metal, and cardboard takes a lot of energy to produce and dispose of. So recycling can help reducing your carbon footprint, but not as much as how you travel or heat and cool your home. Then there's your diet. Above all, red meat makes your carbon footprint bigger because cows produce so much methane, another greenhouse gas. Huge numbers of trees are cut down to create pastures on which cattle can graze. In the developing world, polluting stoves are a real problem too, so it's important to try to replace them with more efficient methods of cooking. But overall, people in poorer countries produce far smaller amounts of greenhouse gases than people in richer countries do. So if you look at just what a country produces, the average amount of carbon dioxide emissions per person in the United States is about 16.1 tons per year. In China, it's 7.1 tons. In the UK, it's about 5.5 tons. In the Democratic Republic of Congo, it's only 0.03 tons. While in Qatar, which has a really small population but produces so much oil and gas, it's 38.6 tons. Now, that's just production. It doesn't take account of all the other things we've talked about, how much you consume. But obviously, the more money you have, the more you tend to consume. So if people in richer countries really want to reduce their carbon footprint, they need to make huge changes in their lifestyles. It can be done. New technologies to make things greener are coming on stream all the time. But it is a reminder that the declared aim in many countries of going carbon neutral by the middle of this century means a revolution in the way we live.
So that's the documentary on the carbon footprint. So carbon footprint is our individual contribution to the harmful gases that are released in the air. How do we contribute? For example, when we use, actually everything we do release gas in the atmosphere. For example, when we use cars, the fuel that was burned will release carbon dioxide in the air. Whatever we do, we take flights, when we buy new clothes, those clothes are manufactured, and when they're manufactured, they require so much energy, and that also has a carbon footprint. So if you analyze, there are so many things that we do that release carbon footprint. And I think it's part of existing. I mean, that's how God created us. But I think the problem is where do we draw the limit? Are we When can we say cukup? Because if you have money, you can just fly anywhere in the world, anytime you want. If you're rich, you can buy the newest motorcycle, the newest car, the newest helicopter, the newest yacht, the newest everything. You are a tech-savvy person, you buy the newest iPhone, the newest Samsung, and the old ones are discarded. But again, the problem is the waste, because the earth will not be able to absorb all these waste. And the production of all these things will release so much carbon dioxide in the air, contributing to the warming of our planet, which is really destroying the balance. Okay, when I was studying, the Muslim scholars would call this balance mizan. Okay, there is this balance. When God created the world, there was this balance that was already there at the start, and we are destroying that balance, maybe unconsciously. Okay, so just so we know, in terms of greenhouse gas emissions per sector, the one that really contributes a lot is the electricity and heat. Of course, when we use electricity and heat, that has an impact, because it releases carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. Transport, manufacturing, agriculture, and many other sectors contribute to the greenhouse gas emissions. Okay, by country, it's already noted that the number one gas emitters in the world for now are China, USA, and India. They're the ones who are really industrializing. Those who industrialize, because they will have to have many factories, and it will be energy intensive. So they are in need of so much energy. And how do they do that? Burning coal, burning other materials that would provide them energy with. So these are the top three now: China, USA, and India. But for the longest time, it was Europe and the USA, and now China is developing so fast, and also India. The highest per capita consumers, these are really the culprits of producing so much greenhouse gases: citizens of US, Canada, Iceland, Norway, and the rich Middle East nations. Okay. So here, if we look at the ecological crisis, one sub-issue there is really the issue between developing and developed countries. So the developing countries, their contribution to the greenhouse is minimal, but those who are already developed, first world countries, they produce so much greenhouse gases. And the US, for example, Trump even denies that there's climate change. It's really hard to convince Trump, because Trump is a businessman. It's all about money. And we will see this later. Much of the problem of the ecological crisis has something to do with humanity's thirst for unbounded profit. Uang, 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 uang. Okay. That's the first one. What? The second one, di mana kejadian itu terjadi. Okay. Southeast Asia, we look into our region. We look into my country. We are the favorite of typhoons. Every year, we have 20 plus typhoons every year. And it's getting more and more. It's getting stronger and stronger. So the devastation, we have this in 2013. 2013.
Where?
In Tacloban, in the central part of the Philippines. That was the Typhoon Haiyan, or Typhoon Yolanda in our country. So these were the effects. If you look at Vietnam, they also have flooding. Laos, drought. In this part of the world, really, it's about either flooding or drought. This is the problem that we have. That before, it was not so much intense, but this time around, because of the phenomenon, they would call it El Nino and La Nina, we'll have these more rains, more drought, more rains, more drought. The problem with this is, if you are rich, orang kaya, you can cope well, because if it's too hot, ada uang membeli aircon, it's okay. Or if your house is near the coast, orang kaya, you can build your house somewhere which is higher, which is not affected by the floods. It really is about when you speak of the ecological crisis, it asks you about your solidarity with other human beings. Because as a rich person, you can cope well, okay? And the rich people, rich countries, they could. For example, here, when I was looking at the ecological crisis in Singapore, there's not much you can see because Singapore is a small area and they have a lot of money. All their buildings are really air conditioned, which is, if you're going to look at it, oh, you're contributing so much carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. But no one's mentioning that. But that is really the case, okay? Malaysia, also, they have their own issue of flooding as well and drought. Kamu di sini ada drought also. And I was looking at some pictures. Jakarta is the world's fastest sinking city and could be submerged by 2050. And I was told, we already built a city in Kalimantan, right? We already have a new capital. Masalah besar, are you able to move the people from here to there? That's really a big question mark. But it's a good effort because this is really part of climate change. If you look at the international scene, this is the map of Africa, and that part of Africa is really worst hit. So many countries that are experiencing so much drought, and these are the numbers of those who will go hungry, of those children, and the countries as well who will be who are badly hit by the crisis in the Sahel region. It's called the Sahel region, that area. Okay. In the USA, even if they're rich, they're also affected by the climate change. They had hurricanes devastating their properties, flooding their streets. In Greece, many years back, or maybe 2 or 3 years ago, there was this forest fire that destroyed villages and really burned them. Okay, so these are just pictures of what happened in Greece. Okay. Spain, they were also victims of forest fires and flooding. In India, there's just too much, it's too hot in India. Okay. I don't know how we will survive. Not only temperature, but also their problem of smog, okay, the quality of their air. Okay. And have a huge problem of trash as well. Okay. Again, the problem with plastic is this, and if you are not conscious of it, the plastic is easily manufactured by businesses, and they're able to sell their products easily, and the hygiene is also packaged as, oh, this is the cleanest. So people easily buy items with plastic, but the problem with plastic is that it cannot really, our planet cannot absorb plastic. So between human waste and plastic, I would say I would go for human waste, because after 3, 4, 5 days, it will be absorbed by the earth and it can become fertilizer. But the plastic, the problem with plastic, our earth cannot absorb them. And if they are absorbed, after how many years, they become microplastics and they end up in our water system and they enter into our bodies, and it's really detrimental to our health. So some multinational companies would package, oh, we are recycling. Tapi that is not reality. They are not recycling, because between recycling and manufacturing new plastic bottles, this is much, much cheaper, murah. Ini recycling, mahal sekali. Jika itu a businessman, what do you want? Mahal or murah? Of course, you want a murah so that you can have uang. Okay? China as well, experiencing these droughts and floods. And Europe recently had this extreme heat. Okay? So it was mentioned that I studied in Germany. We never had this when I was there. But last week, I think, or 2 weeks ago, the tram lines were melting. And therefore, the trams, their trains couldn't run. Okay, it affected them so much in Germany. Okay, Mari. So the inequality in adapting to climate change. So I already mentioned this. If you are rich, you can adapt well. If you are poor, sorry, Okay. When did it start? Okay, suggested beginnings from the scholars that I read, they would say it started with the Industrial Revolution. Okay, with the creation of the steam engine, the rise of science and technology. This is really the thesis of the Islamic scholar Sayyid Hussein Nasser, and it happened in the modern period. Let's watch this one.
Revolution. Believe it or not too many years ago, people provided most things for themselves. They made their own cloth, sewed and made their own clothing. They grew their own food and hunted the meat they ate. If a person had a skill, like woodworking or working with metal, or maybe sewing and spinning and weaving fabric, or tracking animals for their pelts and skins, that person would trade these goods and services for something that they could not do or did not have. This trading was called bartering. It was important to the way of life around the world. At one time, most people used hand tools or simple machines powered by hand or pulled by animals to make the things they needed for everyday life. The Industrial Revolution, which began in the late 1700s and continued to the 1800s, changed the world. The Industrial Revolution represents the time when home production of goods began to be transferred to factories powered by steam and electricity, fueled by coal and oil, producing things in mass quantities and transporting things faster over longer distances. The Industrial Revolution brought many important events, inventors, and inventions. Think Eli Whitney for inventing the cotton gin in 1794. The cotton gin increased the speed of separating the cotton seeds from the fiber, which was normally done by hand using the spinning wheel. This was specifically helpful in the southern states, where hand-picked raw cotton had to be sent way up north, where it was then processed and weaved into cloth. The cotton gin made possible the removing of cotton seed much faster and process more cotton in a day than the months it would take to do the job by hand. In 1846, Elias Howe received a U.S. patent for refinements in the development of the sewing machine, which of course allowed for faster production of clothing and eventually resulted in most people no longer needing to make their own clothing at home. Other developments took place in the farm industry. Better machines were produced, such as the reaper in 1831, allowing the harvesting of grain to be faster and cheaper. In addition, John Deere invented the first steel plow in 1837, which helped farmers become faster and more efficient in planting and growing crops. Due to these improvements in farming, the increase in the number of factories and the productions of goods outside the home, people began to move from farmland into the cities across the country. They no longer needed to grow their own food, raise animals, or produce products at home. Other improvements were made in communication and transportation. The amazing inventor, Samuel Morse, successfully exploited the development of the telegraph in 1860, which allowed communication by wire using electricity and sending pulses of dots and dashes to communicate the letters of the alphabet from the East Coast to the Mississippi. Carl von Grace had his design of a contraption called the Velocipede, the first commercially successful two-wheel steerable human-powered writing device. The Industrial Revolution.
So I cut this short because we don't have much time. But what I want to say is that the crisis started in the Industrial Revolution because everything became accelerated. The production of clothing, the production of cars, and up till now, we inherited all these positive things about the Industrial Revolution. But it really has, the problem really is this. We have invented so many things, but what is the limit to this? So now China, for example, is developing, and they have this plan of copying the model of the United States of having each family own 4 cars. Imagine, each family in the US has 4 cars, and China wants to copy that. What does it mean? It means burning so much fossil fuels, and that would mean more greenhouse emissions. So the technology that's being developed, we all embrace it, but it has a negative effect on us. Saya ada iPhone ito, 6S. Mengapa? I don't want to upgrade it now because if I buy a new one, then that means I'm giving Apple the license to manufacture the newest one, which means flattening a mountain or a hill somewhere to get the minerals, the metals needed to manufacture this. And if you look at the technologies we have, all these multinational companies, they make the lifespan of our appliances so short. If before refrigerators could last maybe 15, 20 years, now refrigerators can only last 3 years because they want that you buy another one. This phone, they also really want me to buy another one because I couldn't upgrade it. There are apps here that I could no longer use. Why? Because it's obsolete. It's no longer operating with iOS. I don't know what the iOS is now, but I have problems now with this one. But that is the dilemma I have, because if I'm going to buy a new one, then that means you're really giving them the license to produce another one, which is harmful really to our environment. Okay? Siapa, who is the responsible for this? We know that we human beings are responsible for this. I will cut this short. The thing that I want to highlight is this term that if you are into research on the environment, you will encounter this term, Anthropocene. It's the time of the human beings. So if you look at the history of the Earth, we are now, according to the two experts, Kristen and Edward Sturmer, they proposed this term Anthropocene because the processes of the Earth is now being managed by human beings. We have, in a way, we already invaded the Earth, the entire Earth. Okay, so all parts of the Earth are already invaded by human beings, and we are now the masters of the processes of the Earth. Okay, we'll skip that so that we can. So, who started this? Our forebears, our forefathers started this. They invented, of course, they're good. Cotton Jenny, they make the production of clothing fast. Cars, as I mentioned, it's good at the start, but again, if there's no limit to it, then we will be going for some disasters. The phones, the internet, they have some good things, but when you produce all these things and there's no limit to it, it's really going to harm our planet. Okay. Maybe later you can ask more about air condition, for example. It's using so much power. Okay. So we ask the question, why? Why is it that we care? We care because it is just one home, and all species are endangered. And if we don't address this, scientists tell us that the Earth could warm until the 2050, and the Earth could be livable by then. Okay. It's just number one. So we now move to number two. This is short, and I'm now going to my thesis, comparative theology. So comparative theology is really a method of doing theology that takes religious diversity as an objective characteristic of our society. So whenever we go now, you would encounter many religions, Christian, Buddhist, Muslim. Wherever you go, there is this reality. And this American Jesuit, Francis Clooney, is the father of comparative theology. And he said, we should take this phenomenon and we may learn from it. We may learn from it. Okay. So when we do comparative theology, I do comparative theology. I say I'm a Catholic priest, but I say I can learn something from the other religions. Okay. It's not about judging which religion is right, but I can learn something from this because this is the phenomenon of the world right now. Okay. So what does comparative theology do? As a comparative theologian, what I do is I choose a particular topic and I compare religion's view about that topic. So what I did, let's look at the environmental crisis problem and see what the authors, Muslim authors and Christian authors say about it and compare what their opinions about it and gather insights from it. Okay? So that's number two, theology comparative. The areas of comparison, and this is the thesis that I did in Deutsch in Germany. Okay, so it has 4 chapters. Chapter 1 has something to do with the Muslim perspective, and these are the authors that I read. Okay, Nasser is the Islamic from Iran. These are just the 2 books, but he wrote a lot. Okay, so Nasser is a prolific writer, but these are the two books, major books that I read for my dissertation. The second one is Fazlun Khalid, who comes from Sri Lanka, and he wrote also about the environment. Later, I'll say something about what I gathered from him. Nabil Izzuddin is an Iraqi Islamic scholar, Islamic law expert. Okay. And the last one is Ibrahim Özdemir, is a Turkish ethicist. Okay. So that's my chapter 1. The chapter 2 of my thesis, after the Christian, I look at after the Muslim, I looked at the Christian perspective, and these are the authors that I read. Thomas Berry is an American priest and whose work on the environment produced a lot of books. These are just the 3 books that I worked with. Leonardo Boff is a Brazilian theologian and also wrote on the environment. Patriarch Bartholomew, who is the patriarch of the Greek Orthodox Church. And the last one is Markus Vogt, who is a German ethicist, and these are the books that he read. Okay, so I'll go through this fast because we don't have much time. Chapter 3 is where I did the comparison. I compared an Islamic author and a Christian author. So this is what I did. The first 2 sets of authors, Nasser and Berry, I compared their works on cosmology because Nasser wrote about cosmology. Okay. The second set of authors is Fazlun Khalid and Leonardo Boff, and their writings really have something to do with our political economy now. They really criticize our society and economy, especially our model of growth and development. We all want growth. Okay, we all hear our politicians say we want more GDP increase, GNP increase, but they criticize that and saying by doing that without limit, you are really damaging the environment, because what fuels our growth? The thing that fuels our growth is really nature. All the economic activities that we do, we need the raw materials of nature. And if we want more and more and more growth, and that means we are scraping the barrel of the earth. Okay. The third has something to do with ethics. Both these authors talk about ethics. And the last that I compared is classical anthropology of Izzuddin and Patriarch Bartholomew. And I just want to present this particular part for our discussion. But maybe if you have some other questions later, you can always ask about the other authors. So in classical anthropology, it talks about what do religions say about the human being, because at the center of all this controversy about the environment is really the human being, because we are in a way contributing to the problem of the environment. Okay, so what similarities did I draw from the 2 authors? First one is they affirm the human being comes from God, okay, divine origins. Second one is the call to responsible stewardship. Both Christian and Muslim authors, they claim that the human being was created by God, given a particular role. And so to the Muslims, they would say Khalifatul Ard, okay, the steward of the earth. And that's also what we in the Christian tradition profess, that we are called by God to be stewards of the earth. And the third similarity is that both religions see the founder as the role model. So to the Muslims, the role model of ecological thinking is the Prophet, and to us, it is Jesus. These similarities, and this is very interesting, and this is something that I learned. When I looked at the 2 works, what I observed was that in Islam, the stress really is about obedience to the law. There is the law that is given, and so you obey what is given. Okay, so the strategy of Nabil Izzuddin really is that there is no environmental law in Islam yet, because that's not part of the problem of the time of the Prophet. But what he says is that if we can derive environmental laws using the 4 sources of Islamic law, then that would be good for the Muslims. Okay, so Quran, the Sunnah, the Ijma, and then the Qiyas. Okay. While the Christian, what do we stress? The stress for Christians really is really human autonomy, freedom, self-determination. So what I see here is that this is something that we can learn from, because to us Christians, when we are tasked by God to be stewards of the earth, we believe that God gave us that freedom to either choose the good or choose the bad. And this is very important, because when I look deeper into the cause of the dissimilarity, this dissimilarity comes from the different construal of the human condition. We all believe that there was Adam, right? Adam, Adam sinned, right? To us Christians, Adam sinned, but what happened? When God confronted him, Adam said, "It's not me, it's the woman." And the woman said, "It's not me, it's the serpent." So there's no such thing as Adam seeking forgiveness. To the Islamic tradition, and this is new to me, to the Islamic tradition, Adam sought forgiveness from God. I said, that's new. And that somehow, that particular difference explains also why we Christians, we look for a redeemer figure, because we ourselves couldn't redeem ourselves. But to you, Muslims, there's no need for a redeeming figure, because the human being, Adam, he asked for forgiveness, and so he doesn't really need someone who is to redeem him. And like us Christians, for example, we see ourselves as we human beings are created by God. We can do the good, we can do the bad, but most of the time we fail to do the good because we are frail. And that's I think that's our way of construing our humanity. I don't know if there's someone of you perfect, but I think that's the essence of our construal of the human condition. No, we can never be perfect. We want to be, but we couldn't. And so there's this need for the Redeemer for us. But to the Islamic tradition, which is interesting, Adam sought forgiveness, and so therefore there's really no need for a redeemer. Okay, so that's the attainment of salvation. Kita tidak ada waktu. Okay, so the fourth one, conclusion. So I just present this to you so that from all the readings that I did, what I gathered, I now go back to my own tradition after reading Islam, after reading my own faith. It was clear to me that there's a need for the decentering of the human being. Okay. Much of the problem of ecological crisis is really about the anthropocentric worldview, that the human being is the center. There's a need for us to decenter as human beings. Second one, there's the need to recover the intrinsic value of creation. I think I would take this idea from Hossein Nasr. Nasr would say, his critique is that the advent of modern science and technology reduced nature as a dead object. There's no sacred value to nature anymore. Okay? And sadly, that is still happening now. We don't care about nature. We don't care about them. It's just us. But I think we need to recover the idea that everything in the world is really created by God. Everything is created by God. It's not just us human beings, but it's the entire world that God created us. The third one is this, reconfiguring stewardship. So as I've mentioned, in our Christian tradition, we're not really forced by a law, but we are persuaded to do what is right. There's so much stress on freedom. And I think when we stress freedom, what I draw from that conclusion is that we Christians should be able to put a limit, because it appears that there's no limit to our freedom now. So the typical example I have is Elon Musk. You know Elon Musk, right? Elon Musk is creating now, I don't know what he's creating, but one of his projects, I think, is to transport people to Mars. That's business again, wang, right? But there's no limit to it. But when you do that, every rocket that really leaves the Earth consumes so much energy and fuel, actually. The experts would tell us that around the Earth, there's so much garbage from all the explorations that we have. But no one is really criticizing Elon Musk about it, because there's no limit to it. You remember the time when some people went to the Titanic to to just watch the ruins, and eventually it exploded, because there's really no limit to human beings wanting for more profit. They really paid a lot for that, $100 million, $10 million. I can't remember anymore the price, but there's no limit. Okay, so with that, I think I'd like to end, because these are maybe you can ask later. Okay, thank you. Sorry for taking so much of your time, but that is the problem really with when we discuss about the ecological crisis. We cannot sum it up in just one sitting. There's just too many issues involved. I'm just presenting to you more or less the overview. If you have questions, so you can raise them now. Thank you.
Okay, I think Romohil, your presentation has given us many important points of ecological crisis. Some points I highlight is we are as human beings in the entire Earth are interconnected, intertwined, and also interrelated to others. Not only as human beings, but also interconnected with nature as a creation of God. Okay, let's move on to Q&A session. Okay. Please mention your name and your institution and give your question clear and short. Okay, please.
No? Okay.
Okay, thank you. I have two questions. The first question is, can the modernization support the agenda of ecology revitalization?
Mm-hmm.
And the second question is, how the religion support how the religion how the religion can control the dark side of modernization.
Okay, interesting question. I always believe that any anything has all the potential for the good and for the bad. I think, for example, technology can also be used for the good and for the bad. Okay. And so therefore, to the question if modernity can possibly do something for the environment, I think there is a potential still. But my own judgment is that the desire for human being, for the greed of human being, apa itu greed in bahasa? Greed, Romo, apa itu? Tamak. It's real. Rapus. Banyak kalimat itu. Saya sangat tua. But you know, greed. Greed is that which human beings, I think human beings, if they don't have a religion, they couldn't control that one. They couldn't control it because it can just eat you up. There's something, you want more, and you want more, you want more. So what do I mean by that? In modernity, for example, we are given technology. Technology is supposed to help us ease the burdens that we have. But what is happening is that technology is being used by businessmen to earn more and more and more profit. Contoh, electric cars. Electric cars are already good because it helps us reduce our carbon footprint. Can we buy electric cars easily now? It's not easy because those who have the technology will not share it with us freely. We need to buy something, some patent for that to be shared because it is now wedded to business. So that greed of the human being for more business, I think it is what hinders us to progress to a better world, to a greener world. Because everything has been monetized, everything has now a price tag, and that people are not willing to just simply share. So I think that's the problem that we have as regards modernity, modern technology. Modern technology, I believe, has the potential, but it will eventually be up to the human being to say, hey, this is just one home that we have. We share what we have. But are people willing to share freely to other people? I would have to say it's not easy because human beings are, apa itu? Sahah. Sarah. Serakah.
Yes.
We are just greedy. Yeah. So hard. Did I answer your question? What is your second question again? Religion. Religion has the potential because religion somehow orients you. So what are your values as a human being? So I don't know how it is with Muslim or Islam, but to us, for example, Christians, there's always this virtue of not being selfish, but to share what you have. But again, that's the ideal. So many of those who own multinational corporations, for example, they are not that easily swayed to share. Okay, so it depends on your spirituality really and how you look at the world. So if you look at the world as something to be owned, then you won't be contented. But if you look at the world as something that is given to God, to you as a gift, to be shared by others, then that can be a potential for us to solve this problem. Because that would mean it's not me that is important in this world, but it's really God. And sad to say, many people are blinded by that. They don't see, many people actually deny religion these days, which is sad. But religion provides you with that anchor. It's not me who is the source of my existence, but it is God. And therefore, that allows for values to emerge.
Enough? Okay. Second question. Anyone to ask? Okay.
Yeah, it's on already.
Okay, thank you so much for volunteer. My name is Naomi, and my question is our small steps to reduce plastic waste can be effect to our planet, and at the same time, million people just ignore about it.
Very important question also because if you are ecologically conscious, but you are just 1 in 1 million, it's like your effort is really futile. It won't have any effect on the entire thing. And that's sometimes the cause why many people just get discouraged because, like for example, in our group, when we eat, for example, there would be so much packaging, so much plastic. And as I mentioned, plastic really is not absorbed by the earth. And so sometimes I would feel myself bad. And for example, saya suka minum jus jambu. But when I say jus jambu served in plastic, I just say, it's okay. I won't die. Saya tidak mati if I cannot drink jus jambu. I can just bear it and say this is for the planet. So it's my own way, little way maybe, but I feel like I cannot just simply go on with this, even if all the others are doing it. What I'm hoping is that we can spread more consciousness among people about this. I always remind myself, and I also remind you, that this problem, as we have seen, started in the end of the 17th century. That's almost 200, 250 years ago. And that means the problem started way, way before your grandparents were born, your parents were born, and you were born. And will I see, or will we see the solution to this problem in our lifetime? Saya pikir tidak. Because it's really a long-term problem, and I think we need a long-term solution to this. And so for now, when people become more aware of their ecological, for example, carbon footprint, at least there's that consciousness that could become a start to the change that we desire. Realistically, I'm not so sure if it will happen in my lifetime. That is, if I witness that the earth will be too warm, that all of us will just die. I would say maybe in 2100, maybe that could happen, possibly. I don't know. But it could happen, but not in the immediate future. So we are doing this, or you are doing this, not so much for ourselves really, but for the future generations. So you will have your own sons and your daughters, and your children will have their own children as well. It is the one earth that we leave them behind. There's no other earth. Scientists are looking for some other planet out there that can support life, but up until now, there's none yet. The question that one Muslim writer I read said, why are we looking for some other place out there when in fact we have one here in this world that can already support life? Why are we not taking care of this? Which I think is a valid point. Because if you are going to find a planet that is somewhere out there, and maybe I don't know how many years we need to reach that planet, I think the more important, pertinent call is to take care of the planet that God has given us. We're already here. Thank you, Naomi.
Thank you very much, Romo Hill, for your response, explanation, and also the answer. Ladies and gentlemen, because the hour limited time, we have to close our discussion session. I apologize if not all of you cannot questioning your question as well. Before we close, allow me to highlight a few important points from today's discussion. We also have known about the interconnected, intertwined, and interrelated to other creation, and also about how the dilemma we have. We must grow. We must show. We must. Sorry if I.
You can combine. Bisa.
Kita harus terus melakukan our small steps. Our small steps is important to our planet also. If it meskipun kita tuh berpikir itu hanya small things to do gitu ya.
Yeah.
Yes.
You can add tidak binasik.
Okay. Tidak binasik. Okay. Okay, we hope this discussion will not end here. Hopefully it can inspire us to continue reflecting, studying, and taking concrete action in our own communities. Thank you very much, Romo Hill and Romo, Pak Hamdani also, and also the committee of Kajian Kamisan. We must close here. Thank you very much for your all attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you. Oh, okay. Thank you. Alright, thank you. Ini, ikut ini. Ikut ini. Ada freestyle itu. Thank you. Oh, thank you. Terima kasih.
This is a souvenir.
Wow, thank you.
And we can jump together.
Thank you.
Ya.
Kasih. Terima kasih. Thank you.
Kita foto bareng.
Di sini ya. Ya. Thank you.
I think it's better to show the title of the first slide.
Oke.
Ya, Romo kita foto. Maybe you can stand up here.
The others can hear.
Ya.
Sini.
Ayo.
Mari.
Rata-rata yang ada cewek cowok jangan
Sini. Apa itu atas? Di atas, di bawah, di atas.
boleh juga di depan.
Sini. Depan.